Back to follow-up segment tonight, as we have reported, at least 9 attorneys who've represented or assisted captured terrorists have been hired by the Justice Department. Attorney General Eric Holder apparently believes these people will be valuable in fighting terror, I guess. But some don't like this at all, including the group Keep America Safe.
The pendulum is starting to swing. An America run by progressives is really, it's about to happen. We're going to be looking for people who share our values.
So who did President Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder hire? 9 lawyers who represented or advocated for terrorist detainees. Who are these government officials? Eric Holder will only name 2. Why the secrecy behind the other 7? Whose values do they share? Tell Eric Americans have a right to know the identity of the Al-Qaeda 7.
The Al-Qaeda 7. Joining us now from Washington, the co-founder of Keep America Safe, Liz Cheney. All right, well, I guess the White House got wind you were going to be on Factor tonight, because not only did we get the identities of the other 7, and they really don't matter, but we have them, but they also kicked in 3 other lawyers that the Bush administration hired who had helped, assisted in legal ways, capture terrorists. So the White House is clearly worried about this issue. That's number one. They're clearly worried about the perception that Holder is doing something wrong. Is he?
Well, and you also know they watch The Factor, which is actually good news to hear, too, Bill. But yeah, look, I mean, personnel is policy here. And you've got 9 people we now know in relatively senior positions in this Justice Department who previously voluntarily represented terrorists. And I think that the American people have a right to know, what are they doing now? And you'll see in the statement that the White House or the Justice Department released, they're still refusing to say exactly what these people are working on inside the department today.
We don't know what they're doing, but we assume that they're trying to put bad guys away, which is what the Justice Department does. But I want to get your opinion on this. I mean, because you studied the issue, and obviously your group doesn't like it. Do you think there's a nefarious, do you think there's something behind the scenes that Holder is doing that's damaging to the nation?
Well, I think that his approach to the war on terror is damaging to the nation. And I think that if you read the letter he sent to Congress, he talked about the fact that often the Department of Justice hires people who've defended white-collar criminals to come in and prosecute white-collar criminals. But what that tells you there is that they believe there's some similarity between terrorists and white-collar criminals or tax cheats or bank robbers.
I don't know if that's fair.
No, I think it does, Bill. And the problem here is people need to remember and go and look at who these terrorists were. You've got, Hamdan, who was bin Laden's driver, who was represented by the Deputy Solicitor General, who swore an oath of allegiance, Hamdan did, to bin Laden. He was captured with missiles in the trunk of his car. These are people who are sworn to kill Americans.
Let me make 2 points. First of all, I think that when Holder sent that letter to Congress, he was basically saying, look, I'm hiring these guys because they have expertise in this area, just as a white-collar defender would know the tricks of the white-collar felons. I think that's what he meant there. However, you're absolutely right. Just today we learned that the southern commander of the Taliban in Afghanistan was in Guantanamo Bay, and they let him go. Another big shot. Time after time.
Right. But I would also say, Bill, that I agree with your first point, but I think there's a very serious problem with your first point. Because these lawyers who represented these terrorists, it wasn't the same thing as representing a criminal. In many cases, and now that we know who they were, you can go through and you can say you're bringing in a mindset, which is that terrorism is crime. And the problem with this administration is that you've now seen, decisions like the one to bring KSM to New York, decisions like the one to spend time investigating CIA officers.
For your group?
The crux of the matter is that the American people have a right to know whether lawyers who used to represent and advocate on behalf of terrorists, some of whom had killed Americans, Omar Khadr is one of them to be specific, whether those same lawyers are now responsible working inside the Justice Department on terrorism-related detaining
fair enough.
issues.
I mean, I think we need transparency, absolutely. But
and it also tells you something about the policy of the administration. I think that's a critically important point,
But
too,
your
Bill,
group, Keep America Safe, has a difference with the Obama administration, is that you see it as a war on terror, not a crime, and I agree with you. I'm with you there 100%. It is a war, not a criminal activity. But that's what's driving this.
Well, and the distinction matters because it determines the kind of policies you put in place going forward. Somebody who was advocating for the release of terrorists, somebody who said, for example, as one of these lawyers did, that military commissions are kangaroo courts, that kind of person is unlikely to be able to put in place the policies that are necessary to keep us safe.
Well, they're certainly not going to promote military tribunals, which is what you guys want.
But also, if the Attorney General believes these people share his values, he ought to explain that to the American people.
Okay. Transparency is always good, Ms. Cheney. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. Good to